You're listening to Talk to Brazil with Tom Reaoch. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the world's first English language internet radio program about business in Brazil, now in a podcast format. I'm Tom Reaoch and your host for the show. I'm talking from the city of Campinas in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. So when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Today's guest is Steve Scheibe. He's a Brazil expert, president of All Abroad Consulting of San Diego, California. And All Abroad specializes in consulting matchmaking, export management, sales, and follow-up for customers in Brazil, Mexico, and the United States. Additionally, provides services such as virtual office, customer service, basic research, and translations. Steve is talking with us from Rio de Janeiro, where he's now in the middle of a business trip to Brazil. Steve and I initially connected on LinkedIn some years ago, and he is a member of my Talk to Brazil LinkedIn group, where he frequently posts from his blog. So with that, Steve, hello, good morning, and welcome to Talk to Brazil.
Tom, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on Talk to Brazil, your innovative and pioneering talk radio show. And congratulations on the initiative.
Well, thank you. We're trying to, as you know, I would say you're as much as a Brazilianist as I am, and trying to get the word out to the world about Brazil and about business opportunities. That's what I felt years ago, that there was a lack of information. So the more that we can generate, you know that. You live Brazil. So you know the opportunities that are here, right?
Yeah, well, both of us have been around and living in Brazil, and related to Brazil and married to Brazilians and doing business in Brazil for many years now. And so it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk with you personally and exchange ideas and exchange experiences here about what we're doing.
Yeah, what I want to do, at the beginning of the year, you wrote a blog post that you also put on LinkedIn. You put it on Talk to Brazil group on LinkedIn. And you ended that for your predictions for 2019. And today I'd like to talk about the future, but you ended that saying talking about Brazilians themselves, the tropical land of sun, beaches, beer, and beauty. And Brazilians say carnival is coming and we have football, so screw the rest and let us muddle through. That's a pretty graphic picture of Brazil, and one that I agree with. But the future, everybody says Brazil is always, the country of the future. Is the future coming? And looking towards 2025 is the future that I'm looking at now. What do you think? Where are the opportunities for companies in Brazil and for companies outside of Brazil to come here?
Well, Brazil is a world to itself and a place that from the outside seems quite mysterious. But once you're in Brazil and you have the right guidance and a little bit of experience, you discover that Brazil is a place where you can work and be productive, have a profitable business, and live a very nice life, taking into account all the factors that are involved in the Brazilian culture. And looking forward to, say, 2025, that's a pretty good time horizon. We're looking at this 5, 6, 7 years. Mm-hmm. And as you and I both know, Brazil has been going through a period of political and economic transition. Mm-hmm. Economic growth overall has been not spectacular, has been actually fairly slow when we came out of the recession. But mm-hmm. the pickup of the economy has not been great. But I think that the macro level issues often obscure what's taking place on the ground and what people are doing day to day with their businesses. My clientele typically are companies that have sales between 10 to 50 million, maybe $100 million per year. Mm-hmm. So these are companies that are small to mid-size, and are active. And these people are quite productive. They're in business for 30, 40 years. They're not going anyplace. They know how to work within the context of Brazilian culture. And increasingly, Brazilian companies are looking to buy products in the United States, especially capital goods.
Right.
They're looking also to buy technology, and they're looking to export their product. They know that for them to be successful in terms of exporting product to the United States, that their product has to be technological, up-to-date,
right.
competitive, and they have to find a niche in the markets there. And there are many companies that are doing that, and those companies are quite successful. Although Brazil, one time, Brazil in 2010 had reached had been the 5th largest economy in the world. Now we're dropped down with the recession, down to maybe the 9th or 10th largest economy. But we're still talking about around $2 trillion, which is a lot of economic activity.
Right. Now, when you compare, as I mentioned, you also do business obviously in the States and Mexico. So we're talking about 3 different cultures. And when you mention the size, small, medium-sized companies, the United States is full of small, medium-sized companies. I imagine Mexico, from being there, the same thing. When we look at world economy, talk about a global market, but what sustains business really are small and medium-sized companies.
Absolutely. Those are the companies that are employing the greatest number of people. And of course, the multinationals, the Pareto rule of 80-20 prevails for them. But still, in terms of employment, the small and medium-sized companies are the ones that are where the jobs are. And that's here in Brazil as well as the United States.
Well, you mentioned export. Maybe the fallacy is that companies or persons feel that they need to be big to be able to export. But in mentioning niche markets are niches. They're small. So you don't need to be big to find a niche.
That's right. And Brazilians are very creative. There are so many Brazilians that have advanced degrees, technological degrees from France, from England, from the United States, from all over the world, and people that have a tremendous capability in terms of being able to think and being able to plan, in terms of being able to develop product technologically. There are so many in your region there, Campinas. There's just so much wealth and so much knowledge that it just blows you away when you're there. I mean, it's like being in California.
Well, you have a beach in California. We don't have a beach in Campinas.
But you guys will get up in the car and drive to Guarujá, Ubatuba, and you're there in a couple of hours.
Well, that's true. No, but you're right on that. And one of my drives with Talk to Brazil and starting this is to really try to sell Campinas to persons and businesses outside, because unfortunately Campinas is considered by many, even people in Brazil, they don't realize the economic power that's in this region. We have over 1 million inhabitants. The greater region has a gross national product equivalent to Chile, so a lot happening here.
No, that's definitely true. The whole region surrounding Campinas and just the drive there is tremendous on the amount of wealth that you see, both from the primary sector through industry to all types of services and commerce.
Now, a little bit about Mexico now. All right, we have the Latin culture in Brazil. You have the Latin culture in Mexico. There's been a recent opening over the last few years, and I see that growing for business relations between Brazil and Mexico. Looking forward, do you see that strengthening?
The Brazil-Mexico relationship is a very interesting one, because there are two companies that have a lot of similarities, but a tremendous amount of differences as well. The main trade between Mexico and Brazil has been in the automotive sector, and there have been lots of kinks and problems in that relationship. But recently, those things have come into alignment again, and there's a new agreement taking place between in the automotive sector And one thing that's really interesting from my perspective on that is how the automotive sector has fed into the development of logistics. The logistics sector in Brazil, partially through the automotive industry, and the automotive industry not only in Mexico and Brazil, but between Brazil and other countries that it exports to, Mercosur countries specifically. But just over the past generation, 15 to 20 years, the logistical infrastructure and the way that product is moved between Brazil and Mexico, between Brazil and the United States, between Brazil and other places, has just improved so much. It's really amazing. And I think part of that is driven.
Yeah, when I think looking forward, as we talk to 2025, I think the push by the present government really in the infrastructure development. We're talking about ports, airports, highways, railways. That is something that, from my perspective, definitely will happen. And as that happens, it falls in line with what you just said. What has become better is going to become better still.
And that's a really important point, Tom, because the news about the new government here in Brazil has emphasized really the folkloric aspects, boys wearing blue and girls wearing pink. But the real business and the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transportation has been outstanding. It really, in terms of the new government, is the one government that it has not been in the news and not been in the good news because it's working, doing good things. There are ongoing auctions for privatization of ports, of railways, of the whole infrastructure sector. So that is a wonderful opportunity, not only for Brazilian companies, but for U.S. companies that would like to get involved. I mean, there's a whole space to be filled, right, because of the corruption problems that became revealed through the Lava Jato scandal. And so the major construction companies in Brazil have taken a big hit, but all of the people, the personnel who are really very highly skilled and very competent are available. So I see personally an opportunity for construction companies, national construction companies, perhaps in alliance with foreign construction companies, to participate in all of these different infrastructure projects that are being auctioned off and that are taking place.
So I want to touch on a point you just mentioned now, and corruption obviously for the last several years has been important. That's been in the headlines, and that's true. But if we can take the brighter side, the sunny side of what has happened here, my feeling is, and I like your take on that, does the word compliance have a different meaning in Brazil today?
I think that the whole idea of compliance has become a standard that companies are increasingly adhering to and paying attention to. There's a very strong push on ethics and compliance here. It's required because of U.S. legislation. It's required because of the events in Brazil. And there's a drive that people say, no, if we comply, if we know what we're doing, business is just much more predictable rather than trying to do things under the table and getting caught with some sort of untoward or shady operation, which in the end, nobody really wants to do. I mean, sometimes people just try to, I have to do this, I was forced to do this, I had to take the expeditious route. Right. But that's not really a good business philosophy, and that's not the way things should be done.
So you see that, let's say for your small, medium-sized clients, the more they become compliant, the more they go through the checklist of ethics, the better attraction they offer to foreign investment?
Absolutely. And if you're a small company, you really cannot afford to get caught.
Right.
I've operated a business in Brazil. I've been audited by the Brazilian IS numerous times. And, it's something like back in the 80s when we had raging inflation. At one point, I had to prove that a mistake that we made in our operations the fine should have been $500 when the auditor wanted to charge us $50,000, and it cost me $5,000 to prove that. But we in the end we did win, and we did pay a fine of $500 rather than, I don't know, it's $500 or either $50 rather than $50,000. But it was a major thing. But it was a real headache. But at the same time, it just shows that if you do act properly and you have the proper documentation of what you're doing, you can be successful even if you're up against the Brazilian IRS.
Right. Well, I think, too, another thing needs to be said. The technology, even in banking, in transfers, in bureaucracy, is being applied in Brazil, and I feel that will be driven in the future to make it easier to do business, to make it easier to comply, not even on paper anymore. You got to do it digitally, and everything is becoming digitalized so fast here that it's easier for a company.
That's right. You know how we make payments here in Brazil. Everybody goes on their cell phone. Their cell phone reads a barcode and deducts the amount from their account right away.
Right.
It actually it seems to me more advanced and an easier deal than in the United States. With online banking in the United States, it certainly exists, but I think here in Brazil it's actually a bit more advanced than it is in the States.
Well, you were on the beach Sunday, I take, and you probably witnessed maybe hundreds of thousands of transactions on the beach.
Absolutely. And all of those transactions, most of them were done with credit and debit cards.
I mean, you can buy, coconut water on your credit card or on your phone today.
You can, absolutely. You certainly can. Yeah, quite easily. Yeah.
Has money gone out? Has money become obsolete in Brazil? The physical property, coins and bills?
It has not become obsolete, but there's certainly, you no longer have to take large volumes of real bills to the bank or to a business to do a transaction. That's certainly true. No one wants to do that. And no one in their right mind will do that. So you'll always do any sort of major transaction electronically. And even if you go to the supermarket, I mean, you spend $50 at the supermarket, most likely you're going to pay that with some kind of card, some kind of plastic.
That's true. And you'll probably pay it in my supermarket. You could pay that in 3 payments.
Absolutely, and you can do that too. I mean, if you buy a ticket between Rio and Sao Paulo, you can buy that ticket online and pay 12, break the payments up into 12 payments.
That's right. I remember several years ago, I had an American client coming down, and they were really looking at the payment thing. And one of the things that amazed them that you would go in, and what they were looking at were the appliances. And I showed them the Brazilian equivalent of a washing machine, which here is called a tanquinho. And showed them that it cost something like $40, $50, but the person could buy that and pay it in 12 to 20 payments. And that's what most Brazilians were worried about. What is my monthly payment? And if I can meet that, I'll buy it. That's what drives this economy.
That raises a really good point because the fintech area is growing tremendously in Brazil, and one of the big problems we've always had in Brazil is the cost of money and high interest rates. And with increasing monetary stability in Brazil, low inflation, a relatively stable exchange rate, and the autonomy of the central bank, which I think is coming, we have a chance of having lower interest rates in Brazil, which will make it much more productive for everybody.
Right.
And the fintech development area certainly has a role to play in that.
Oh, it does, and I myself have witnessed that. One of the uh, latest drives in that is the online banking. Yeah, a company here called Nubank, where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
open up your account, you do everything online. I have my credit card online, so I make my purchase. Everything is done. It's fantastic. I don't have to go to a bank anymore. I don't need to open the
That's
door and
right.
go into
Yeah,
a physical presence of a bank.
yeah, yeah. And that's very typical, and it's something that's going to be emerging here, and it is already a reality, as you say. I mean, you have your account there.
So back to what we said at the beginning. Carnival is always carnival, right? Football is
That's
always
true.
football. This last Sunday, I guess in Rio, throughout the country, we had the state championships for soccer, and everybody was out in the street. Not everybody, parts of the fans were out in the street celebrating, and parts weren't. Uh, but
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
the beaches are there, the beer's there, the beauty's here, right? So
Yeah.
your feeling is that the muddling towards the future is going to be an optimistic muddle?
Tom, we always have to be cautious about Brazil because we kind of swing between being overly optimistic and sometimes being overly pessimistic.
Right.
And the fact is that there's so much opportunity, there's so much skill, there's so many people, so many wonderful things available in the country that we have to maintain a fairly even keel and see things as they are. Be able to take advantage of sometimes micro situations,
Right.
Niches that, and we can't really control the whole institutional governmental situation. I mean, individually, each one of us makes our own contribution.
Right.
Everybody can vote, everybody can participate, everybody can express their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, we're just individuals, and as individuals and individual businesses, we have to go out and do our jobs and seek the opportunities and take advantage of the opportunities. And certainly, within a $2 trillion economy, or within an economy in the region of Campinas, let's say the size of Chile,
right,
you're always going to find many opportunities.
No, and I agree with you. And I'm sure with your clients, you said of the small, medium area that they're in, they've been through the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the ecstasy, the depression, everything. But they still exist. They still go forward. And my impression from that group that looking towards the future, it's like it's going to be rosy. What color it's going to be blue or pink, but it's going to be there. There is a future. I don't think we have to qualify it or quantify it. It's there. Just take advantage of it and move forward.
Well, yeah, and it's our responsibility individually and as companies to build that future. So, I mean, nothing. If it were easy, everybody'd be doing it, and that's why not everybody's in business.
Well, if they realized how much fun it was, they would be doing it sooner. So.
Well, yeah. Sometimes the fun comes accompanied by a few hard knocks, but that's all part of life.
That's learning. It really is. So, but well, I'm happy to see that you're in Rio. So the sun rises, the waves lap on the shore. People are happy. They're out jogging. You're looking out the window. You're going to be taking a flight shortly to Belo Horizonte. And next week, I hope to meet you personally here in Campinas. You're going to be coming. We should be together in an event which is the internationalization of companies, and the focus is exactly what we're talking about, of helping companies understand that there is a world out there. So it was a pleasure talking to you. Now it's going to be even a greater pleasure sitting down and having a coffee with you.
Well, Tom, I'm certainly looking forward to the trip to Campinas and meeting you personally, and as you say, sitting down and looking at you eye to eye and shaking hands. So I think that's going to be a great opportunity for both of us, and sharing our experiences that, in your case goes back to the 70s, my case goes back to the 50s and 60s. So it's actually we have to be careful we're not dating ourselves too much here.
No, but the important thing is not where it goes back to. The important thing is where it's leading to.
That's true. That's true. And I think that your future orientation is really appreciated. And I think that is the important thing.
Well, very good. So thanks for sharing your time. I know you got to run and catch a flight, but thanks for your availability. And certainly we'll be talking again in the future.
Tom, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you and speaking to your audience. And hopefully both you and your audience will find something productive out of our conversation. And I'd be glad to do it any other time. Good.
Well, I want to remind our audience that the best place to find you is on LinkedIn, and that is Steve Scheibe. It's Steve. The last name is Scheibe. And you can follow him on his blog, which is allabroadconsulting.wordpress.com, correct?
That's correct.
And I'm sure you'll be following up with after your trip back to the States, and this time with some more interesting blogs for us all.
I'll be trying to do that. Not everything that we write is of great interest, but we'll make an effort.
Okay. Well, thanks again, and I want to thank our audience now for taking part. I invite everybody to visit our website, which is talktobrazil.com, and there you also find all of our previous shows. You can also follow our shows and all of our podcasts on Spotify and iTunes. And thank you, our audience, and remind everyone that today's program was brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, and Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agriculture market. And more about them at their site, which is focusmi.com. And you can always send your suggestions or comments and find me at tom@talktobrazil.com. And like Steve, you can join the Talk to Brazil group on LinkedIn and follow our discussions. So remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Reaoch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.